Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. We are taking a look at KNC coin, and this is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among other things. Now I'm covering this, of course, because my community asked me to go ahead and review this. I've got a lot of requests from it, and of course it's ramped up pretty strong in the last 24 to 48 hours, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with this one here. And just note that I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. Always do your own research, but I do have years of trading experience, and my goal is to help educate you so you can be a trader for a lifetime instead of just for one day, right? So we're going to look at best practice, try to find a good entry point for you so you can make money in this market regardless of bearish or bullish sentiment, okay? Now, just note, I do also have a link to my Telegram community, my Patreon account if you'd like to show your support. There's also a Discord channel as well if you'd like to get engaged and communicate openly with the group. We've got a good group of folks there, so thank you all again for being awesome. Really appreciate you. Also, there's $25 on Bitcoin from Voyager, link in the description below. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's take a look at KNC. And before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first, just to make sure we understand what's going on in the market, so you can be better informed when making a decision to take an entry point. Because obviously, Bitcoin is a catalyst for most movement in the industry, so we want to be aware of that. So let's take a look at Bitcoin first. And just to preface, I am using the Binance desktop trading application. This is on my PC. And on the top right hand corner, you can see I'm using TradingView within, which is the chart that I'm using. So if you'd like to follow along, feel free to go ahead and click on or add, of course, through indicators here, the moving average, 50 and 200. So the 200 is this purple line here, and that is currently working as a resistance level. And the 50-day moving average is this yellow line, which is currently working as a support. So as you can see, it's been wavering above and below this line for some time here, and is trying to find its find it as a support. So good news is, last couple hours the price action has closed above, so we're likely going to see that hopefully continue to slowly drive the price back up to test 42,000, our previous resistance level. Current support is 30,000 and approximately 34,000. So just bear in mind there's two support levels here for Bitcoin, but that is essentially the state of Bitcoin at this present time. Again, this is a 4-hour chart. I use the 4-hour chart because it's the most effective, I feel, with the moving averages. The 4 and a 1 hour chart are very helpful when trying to look at these moving averages. Ethereum is a similar scenario. So as you can see, we got a resistance level here at about 2,900. Also note that the 50-day moving average is working as a support. You can almost see a mirror type of price action when it comes to Ethereum, because Bitcoin is essentially driving that price action as well. So just bear that in mind. Furthermore, we've also got a 3,100 resistance level with a 200-day moving average. So if the price does break above this present resistance of roughly 2,900, we'll see the price action hopefully shoot up and bounce off this and or exceed and break through 3,100. So it'd be nice to see that, but it does look like Ethereum is ready to kind of take off. But it's hard to say specifically right now because Bitcoin is slowly consolidating and going sideways, and a lot of altcoins are kind of timid right now, but they're still increasing. So the last 24 hours has been much better than the last 48 to 72, but I can tell you that we are likely to see some kind of price action here with Ethereum in the relative near future, because it's very common for investors to leave Bitcoin and go over to Ethereum, because Ethereum is the largest altcoin available underneath Bitcoin. So that's the typical route that you'll see people take. Now let's take a look at KNC. This one has a good 50% increase in the past 24 hours. So I got a lot of requests to go ahead and cover it. So I just want to make sure that we look at this here today and see what's going on, because it's definitely outperforming Bitcoin when you look at it, and it broke really hard through its 200-day moving average, and it may test the 50-day moving average soon. So just pay attention to how that works. That could happen soon, but one thing also to note, and how it's similar to Bitcoin, of course, no altcoin is impervious to Bitcoin. If we look back here and we look at the 17th was the first one. So if we look at this guy right here, this is the first sell-off for Bitcoin last month that drove the price down. It recovered, came back down, tried to come back up, but then on the 22nd, we saw another second major sell-off from Bitcoin, and then on the 25th, things wrapped right back up. So obviously it was impacted by Bitcoin, and if we look here as well on, the 8th, that is the Elon candle here, right in this range, and then of course the 18th, which is the largest impact on Bitcoin, which was the the China candle, for lack of better terms, that caused the price action to come way down. I mean, that is a significant decrease. But as you can tell, the last couple of weeks, the price is kind of consolidated, and the last 2 days it's gone up significantly, contrary to Bitcoin. So now that there's some stability from Bitcoin, KNC is ramping back up and getting right back where it needs to. Okay. So based on its previous price action, I would say that average true range should be in the area of 260 upwards of 3.5. So I would say if Bitcoin can continue to go sideways, we can predict that KNC will continue to increase. I would like to see some consolidation from KNC here moving forward, just so that way the price action doesn't overextend itself for too long, because I like bull runs that are, short bursts, consolidate, burst, consolidate. It looks like a staircase, if you will. That's the best way to go, because when the price goes up too fast and too quick, it'll come back down, and then it always splits the difference, comes back down about 50%. Then we have a few days consolidation, and it kind of starts over again. But a good bull run is a slow, progressive increase followed by short periods of consolidation. But look at that volume here. Jeez, that is significant. So it basically rivals one of its first two increases. So, one thing to note as well in crypto, history has a tendency of repeating itself, right? So if you look at this previous pattern, sharp increase followed by consolidation, another increase, and then sell-off. It's almost essentially doing the same thing over and over again. So if we were to expect or use that as a baseline moving forward, we should probably expect to see the price come up maybe a little bit further, go sideways and then down, and then likely come back up for a second push. Again, it does depend on how Bitcoin performs, but generally speaking, if Bitcoin can stay sideways and or just say test the 42,000 range, we'll absolutely see us go on a second run after a brief period of consolidation. All right, so that's the 1-day chart. Let's look at the 4-hour. As you can see, look at that volume. We've got more volume in the last, 24 hours than we did, probably in the last 2 weeks combined. So obviously something's going on. Now, I don't know much about the fundamentals on this. Of course, I was just asked to do a technical analysis, but I'm guessing there might be some type of fundamental news that causes this to increase the way that it has. Oftentimes it's introduced to other exchanges, and that will happen and cause the price action to go up because other people that couldn't invest can now invest. There's a chance of that. I know Coinbase is adopting a lot of coins, but generally speaking, that's what we're looking at there. RSI is up over 70. Now, it's not a bad thing to have the RSI over 70. This is actually quite nice. But the thing to note is the fact that the price is coming up to try to test the 200-day moving average. And the 200-day moving average is notoriously a very strong resistance level and or support, of course, depending on which side you're on the 4-hour chart. So pay close attention to that. That is the likelihood of it testing and rejecting and coming back down. The good news is the price action is above the 50-day moving average. Okay, so we're kind of working ourselves into the channel. I'd venture to guess the price will kind of reject here soon and then kind of go sideways for a little while and maybe come back down to test the 50-day moving average and bounce. That's a pretty common scenario in situations like these. All right, 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and take a look at this here. And if you're new to the channel, I always like to remove my moving averages just because they're simple moving averages. They're not as effective on shorter time frames. And in my experience as a day trader, I can tell you that the EMA line is probably the most effective in conjunction with the VWAP and RSI. So let's just take a look at that here. Let me just briefly explain the VWAP line as the volume weighted average price. It takes the average price, the average volume over the past 24 hours and expresses it as a price. Okay. So right now, the average volume is telling us the price should be $2.11. Now the price is significantly higher, right? So you want to be on the lookout and be aware because that price variance, that standard deviation is so high, it's upwards of almost 20%. There's a likelihood of the price coming back down. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to always happen that way, but the further you get away from the VWAP line with the price action, the more likely it is to come back down. Okay. So I would expect to see some kind of lateral price movement. It may consolidate and do what it did before and prepare itself for a second bull run. In fact, I like the fact that it ramped up like it did and stayed sideways. That's a very good sign. If it does that a couple more times, we'll start getting some really good price movement. But to me, right now, based on what I see, I would be cautious about taking entry just because it feels more like a FOMO than it does true confirmation. But I don't dislike the progression and how it's consolidated and increased, right? But I would speculate the price will either come back down roughly halfway down and or go sideways for a little bit longer and then maybe consolidate to increase a third time. But again, keep this in mind, if you look at the history of it, right, we looked at it, it usually does 2 strong increases followed by a period of retracement. So if that happens again, we could see a retracement from KNC. It may not come back significantly because the average true range for this currency is higher. I do feel like we should have an average price that's much higher than it's at right now, but just be mindful of that, right? Another thing to note too is the RSI is well over 70. Again, not a problem, but if you start seeing it come back down and coming closer to the 70 range, that'd be a good consideration to start maybe take some profits, trim, and or consider taking entry if you can identify a good support and resistance level. Now, why don't we go ahead and do that? Let's see if we can identify that here. Because there's usually, yeah, you can kind of see right here. In fact, I feel like we're up over, or we just tested a support level and resistance. As you see, that was tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So I guess looking at that there, we can see the price action is above a present support level. So if it can hold above and stay above for just say, 30 to 60 more minutes, then that might be a good confirmation that we're above support. Okay. I don't love the variance here between the VWAP and the price action, but there's a support level, looks like it did break, and that's a good sign. Furthermore, we want to also look at the EMA. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with the EMA, that's the exponential moving average, and that basically just tells us that it's either a bullish or bearish sentiment. Now it works very similar to the MACD, so if you can see this white line here, that's basically an EMA line. And it essentially, instead of creating itself on a, I think it's histogram there, what it does, it actually reflects itself on the price action. So I like the EMA line because it tells us more specifically if you're in a bullish or bearish trend. So this is a bullish trend, as you can kind of see. Price comes up, holds over VWAP, tries to come down, reject, and bounces off the EMA line, continues up, goes sideways for a little while, up and down, and then eventually just ramps up and takes off. And it is really on its own now at this point. So again, taking entry in this certain situation, you want to be cautious, but good news is the price is over VWAP and the EMA line. Those are 2 confirmations you typically want to look for when taking entry. I just don't love the fact that it went crazy here, crazy train for for 15 minutes. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's great when you're in that position, but if you're trying to find an entry point and it jumps up 15% in 15 minutes, it can be difficult to identify the next time it's going to happen. Okay, so again, I feel like there's probably some type of catalyst here, but generally speaking, when you see the price action moving the way that it is, it's just kind of cause for concern. I like to pump the brakes a little bit in situations like this, not jump right in and wait for confirmation. And to me, the 2 things we want to wait for is for the price to go sideways a little bit longer. It could keep going up. I could definitely be wrong here, but I can tell you that with the price action as fast as it has so far, it's likely going to go sideways for a little while. And what I'm hoping it does is it continues to go sideways and hold above this support level. And if just say it comes back down and bounces off this support level of roughly $2.43, then what we want to do is potentially consider taking entry at that point. Just take a very small position and wait for confirmation. And confirmation for me is 30 minutes. In other words, on the 15-minute chart, I want to see at least 2 solid green bars closing above that support level for no less than 30 minutes in a row. In other words, we want to see 2 solid green bars closing in order above that line. Okay, now even though we do have confirmation that the price is over EMA and VWAP, the price is extremely overextended. So if we see the price come here and bounce and hold for just say 30 to 60 minutes, then that would be a case in point where you could take a small entry. Small entry, keep in mind, never go all in. But if you take a small entry and wait for confirmation the price continues to go up, you can continue to add to your position. But what could happen is the price could come back down, hold, and then reject, and then it will lose that support, and the price might come back down to test the EMA or the VWAP line. And at that point, I would exit your position, have a tight stop loss here, just below the support level, in case it comes back down. And if it does come down and bounce off the EMA and or VWAP line and hold above for another 30 minutes, then you would want to consider taking another entry. Okay, so it's not the worst thing in the world if you were to just say, get stopped out in a situation like this. If you have good risk tolerance, like just say a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio, and you lose that 1% here and there, it's not a big deal because you'll likely make it up in the other trades, you're making that 2, 3, 4, 5+%, right? So that's kind of the concept there. But yeah, I would be careful. Prices again overextended, not exactly the best entry point for me, but again, it could continue to go on its tear. But I do feel like it's going to go sideways before it does anything else. So just see how it reacts to the support level of 243. And if it holds above, stays above, then you're probably in pretty good shape to maybe add to your position. But just, again, take small positions. When the prices overextend like this, it can be difficult to get a lot more out of it. Try not to feel like you're needing to FOMO in or FOMO out here, because it's easy to get jumped into the hype, right? It's easy to kind of buy into that. So the best thing you can do as a trader is to be patient and to see the big picture and plot out your trade and think about it just abstractly. Don't get emotional. I know it's really easy to say, but oh my gosh, I missed out on so much gains, 43% gain in the last 12 hours alone, and then just jump right in. No, be patient, pay attention, and be smart about this. Okay. So those are the things I like to educate my students, my Patreon communities, my Telegram community, everyone that I'm working with. These are the things that I like to instill. So again, just be patient, have good risk tolerance, and if you'd like to consider joining my Telegram community, feel free to do so. We have a really good group of folks there. Show you support on Patreon. I'm also going to have a premium membership through Patreon with the signal group moving forward. So I'm going to start giving you some buy signals, just sharing my trading with you so you can make perhaps an informed, more informed decision on what I'm doing and how I'm staying successful in this market. Furthermore, I also will do live streams here soon. Next week, I'm planning to kick that off. So I'll be on the lookout for that as well, and where we can essentially analyze and learn and grow together, right? That's the whole point of this, is to become better traders. I want to teach you to fish for a lifetime instead of giving you a fish, right? So I want you to be a good lifetime trader, and we can hopefully all continue to benefit, right? So thank you so much for your time. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you.